So that girl I met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
We're out to dinner last night, and like a klutz, I tipped my drink all over myself.
Oh, no.
And it's all down my shirt. A horrible stain. So embarrassing. And you'll never guess.
What?
She smiles, picks up her drink, spills it all over her top. So now we're...
No way.
Amazing, right?
At eHarmony, you'll find someone you can be yourself with. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up for eHarmony today.
There are a lot of tools that can help you to age in a way that will create the life you want for your future self. A life fully lived and free of preventable hindrances. A life where you live more rather than less as you get older and get to the end of mortality satisfied with how you've spent your life energy. Did you know that envy can be one of the tools you can use to build the life you want? You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 177. Use envy to age better. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hi, my dear. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today. How is your face? What did you think about face yoga? Isn't it so fun to have an option of something natural you can do from home that helps you to love and care for your face more as you age? I wanted to name today's episode Jealousy Affects How You Age because that seems more like what I would say in normal conversation, but I knew that wouldn't be accurate, so I left it as envy. We talked a little bit about this in episode 89, Your Vocabulary Affects How You Age. Emotions are our experience of life, our humanness, and using the right words to describe them matters. It affects how we experience them and it makes sense of them and what we do in response to them. Brené Brown teaches how envy is between two people and it's wanting something that someone else has. Jealousy is between three people and it's the fear of losing something you already have to somebody else. Weird, right? So most of the time we say we're jealous, we're actually envious. And my proposition to you today is that envy affects how well you age. You can decide what you think when we're done today. What does envy make you think of? It's one of the 7 deadly sins, so that doesn't seem good. Brené also teaches that there's benevolent envy. I'm glad you have that, and I want it too. And malicious envy. I want that, and I don't want you to have it. Some wise people have all said similar things about envy. Socrates said, quote, "Envy is the ulcer of the soul." Yikes. And Arthur Brooks says, "Envy is a happiness killer." And author and researcher Sonia Lyubomirsky says, "You can't be envious and happy at the same time. People who pay too much attention to social comparisons find themselves chronically vulnerable, threatened, and insecure." End quote. It seems to me that it would be harder to put more years lived in good health into your future if you're walking around with an ulcerated soul. And do you really want to live longer if your happiness has been killed and you feel chronically vulnerable, threatened, and insecure? Envy seems to stem from comparing ourselves to others. So a lot of advice is to stop doing that. President Theodore Roosevelt is credited with saying that comparison is the thief of joy, which I think can be true, but I love what Brené Brown teaches about comparison. To compare yourself to other people is to be human. We're all neurologically wired to compare ourselves. It's part of our survival instincts. So I think the goal isn't to eradicate comparisons from your consciousness. They're natural and it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It's to up-level what you do about it. How is this comparative information going to drive my behavior? I think we truly can create the life and future we want to live and put more physiologically and psychologically healthy years in our future by up-leveling our responses to the comparisons that are going to come to our awareness, whether we want them to or not. Let's take a minute and think about people that we envy. Who have you compared yourself to and found yourself envious toward? Someone with great hair? Someone who knows a lot about a certain topic? Someone who has the opportunity to make a difference for people who need help? Someone who's creative or artistic? Someone with a big family? Someone with a lot of free time? Someone who has traveled extensively? Mine are usually some version of someone who has a high emotional quotient, EQ, for whom meeting new people and chatting them up is effortless. Someone who always seems to intuitively know what to do, what to say, and how to help someone who's struggling. People who speak multiple languages and have lived abroad and understand the world from multiple perspectives. And women with narrow waists. It might be a little hard to think of people you envy on demand right now, so also keep these ideas in mind for when you do notice those envious feelings coming up as you're out in the wild, so to speak. Get excited because those envious feelings can actually help you live a better and more enjoyable life that feels true to you. I have 5 ideas of how to use envy to help you live a better life. The first one is when you feel envy, recognize that you're not making a fair comparison. Paul Jarvis says envy is like comparing uncooked ingredients to a delicious baked pie. When we envy others, we see only the end result or final product, the delicious pie, but in ourselves, we see all the not so tasty starting ingredients and are acutely aware of all the real and imperfect work required to combine them into a successful end product. It's often fundamentally based on a false comparison. I think it's such a good thing to remember, especially with social media where you're seeing a carefully curated highlight reel of someone's best moments, which personally I think are sometimes somewhat staged and not actually genuine moments at all, and comparing them to your everyday daily drudgery. Paul Jarvis explains it as comparing our sometimes messy selves to only the best and shiniest parts of others and feeling like we're coming up short. Like comparing a teaspoon of baking soda to a fully made pie. So first of all, ask yourself how fair and true this comparison you're making really is. Second, something else Paul Jarvis said is when we give in to the envious feelings, the best we can hope for is second best, since we're focusing on copying someone else's path and not forging our own. I love that, and it reminds me of Arthur Brooks. I tried to find a quote from him about this, and I couldn't, but I know I heard him talk about it once, and I'm pretty sure it was when he was a guest on Peter Attia's podcast. He was saying that envying someone else's life path and seeing their life experience as better than yours is like telling God that you don't appreciate the experiences and opportunities that you've been given. You're devaluing the blessings that you've been given by saying that you would rather have someone else's experience. So when you recognize envy, remember that in order to create a life you'll be pleased with when it's over, you need to stay on your own path and stop caring so much about other people's paths. Make your path the best it can possibly be and appreciate the opportunity to travel on it and beautify it along the way. Sonia Liebermersky also wrote a book called The How of Happiness, and she said, the happier the person, the less attention she pays to how others around her are doing. Okay, my third idea of how to use envy to your advantage as you age is something I had never thought of before, but I think it's brilliant. When I was searching for what Arthur Brooks said before about honoring your own path and playing your role well, I came across this wisdom from his book, Build the Life You Want, which I've listened to before, but I forgot this part. One way to decrease the power of envy on you or to distance yourself from the negative effects of envy is to stop trying to be envied yourself. Stop doing things to be seen doing them. Stop posting a maybe less than fully authentic highlight reel of your shiniest moments if the goal is to make other people jealous, or envious, rather. Don't do things in hopes of praise or compliments that come from others wishing that they could be or do or look like you or have the things or experiences that you have. Isn't that so good? I hadn't thought of the interplay before, but it makes a ton of sense. If you're constantly envying others, you're more likely to try and create a narrative and curate what parts of yourself and your life you allow others to see. And if you're constantly trying to present a polished and hand-selected version of your life so that others feel envious of you, you're chaining yourself to a cycle of envy that robs you of the happiness and the ability to be the most effective and authentic versions of yourself. I think it's a great way to use envy to your advantage as you get older. Let go of all hopes of being envied yourself. My fourth of 5 ideas to use envy to make your life better is to employ Mudita. That's a fabulous word from the ancient language from India called Pali. Mudita is a word that basically the antonym of envy. It means to delight in the good fortunes or accomplishments of others. We don't have a word like it in English. If you see someone and feel envious and can remember to feel mudita instead of envy, you can delight in their good fortune or accomplishments instead. That feels so much better. And like T. Harv Eker says in his classic book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, bless that which you want. If you see a person with a beautiful home, bless that person and bless that home. If you see a person with a beautiful car, bless that person and bless that car. If you see a person with a loving family, bless that person and bless that family. If you see a person with a beautiful body, bless that person and bless their body. He says that because he says that what you bless is more likely to be attracted to you and come into your life too. When you feel positive emotions towards something you wish you had, it's more likely to materialize in your life. It's a little woo-woo, but I believe it. Plus, it feels better. We've talked about Barbara Fredrickson on past episodes. She wrote an awesome book called Love 2.0, and in it she talks about what she calls celebratory love. She says that what we often think of when we think of love is compassionate love, when our heart opens up to feel someone else's pain and we want to improve or at least wish them a sense of well-being. That's great. And the world definitely needs more of that kind of love. But she said there's another kind of love that the world also needs more of and will make both you and the other person better people. Celebratory love. That's when you spot awesomeness in someone else and you celebrate it with them. Celebrate other people's good fortune and also their positive qualities and hard work. You can do this with people you know really well and with mere acquaintances and with people you don't know in the slightest. See someone with a spring in their step or a smile on their face? Celebrate that and beam them a silent wish for their happiness to continue. Celebrate when someone tells you about something good going on in their life. Barbara calls celebratory love gratitude's generous cousin. Isn't that so good? She also says that while most counseling focuses on helping couples and families deal with relationship challenges, what actually helps more is getting better at celebrating the positive stuff with those we love. Mudita. It's good stuff all around. Okay, my last idea of how envy can help you create a more enjoyable and more fulfilling life as you get older is my favorite one. Susan Cain talks about this in one of her awesome books. I think it's in Quiet, but it's possible it's in her other book, Bittersweet. I just listened to her Audible original called A Quiet Life in 7 Steps, and she reiterates this, and I remember how much I loved it. In my interview with K. Margaret Solario a few weeks ago, we talked about how emotions are like a little tap on the shoulder, something with some information that would be worth paying attention to. Envy is no exception, and I think the information envy has for you is something that you for sure don't want to miss out on. It's interesting because we're all told not to envy and that envy is one of the 7 deadly sins. So I think it's really natural to push it away along with greed, gluttony, and lust. But when we do, we miss out on the amazing benefits envy can bring to us. Susan Cain explains it really well. She says that envy can be a signal to you that deep down, there's something you feel like you're missing in your own life. When you feel envy about something, you can just rest in that envy and ask what it's trying to tell you. What is it that you long for? It's okay and even a good thing that you long for something, and envy can help you figure out what. What is it you long for regarding someone else getting a promotion at work or having a close group of friends? Someone who gets an award or who has a gaggle of smiling, helpful children? What is it I long for regarding women with thick hair or smaller waists? Could be anything, and I think there's a magic in asking the question. Some things are somewhat superficial, but even then, I think you can figure out how you think it would make you feel if you had the thing you think you want, and then see how you can generate more of that feeling in your life, even if you can't make your legs longer or your lips fuller. How do you think you'd feel if they were? And in what ways can you generate that feeling or accentuate qualities you do have that make you feel that way? Because snapping your fingers and having higher cheekbones or smaller pores won't actually change who you fundamentally believe yourself to be. But doing some inner work will. And of course, it can be even more helpful with more life trajectory type envyings. What specifically is it about the life of an author that you long for? Why are you so envious of someone's relationship with her daughter, or her being asked to be in charge of a charitable effort? Take some time to drill into what it is about them that you're longing for. Is it really their money or recognition or possessions that you want? Or is it something else, like feeling more secure, or like you're sure you've spent your life energy on a worthy cause? So many people say they don't even know what they really want. They're unhappy and they don't even know what they think will make them happy. Envy is a great way to get clear about what you really want, not just what you know is the logical good girl answer for what you should want, but what you actually want. I think it's okay to want to feel attractive and relevant and valued, to want to live in a beautifully organized home surrounded by love. It's good information to know what you long for. Then the question becomes, what do you want to do about it? How much of your effort do you want to invest in acquiring that feeling? And what can you do right now to generate that feeling within the current constraints of your actual reality? Are you maximizing your current opportunities to contribute to the community that you currently live in? Are you doing your best to be the friend or family member you wish you had? How can you do something spontaneous even with all of your current obligations? Do you need to buy an easel and some oil paints or sign up for a boxing class? What do you long for? Things we find ourselves envying can teach us about our values and our personal fondnesses. And living in line with our values and honoring our interests even when it's hard work and things don't go our way is what creates a meaningful life. One that results in a little byproduct of hard work called happiness. I think part of aging well is to keep the end of our life in mind. What are we trying to create? What is worth spending all of our time doing? We've talked about the top 5 regrets of the dying before. 4, 3, and 2 are, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I think envy can help a lot with numbers 5 and number 1. I wish I had let myself be happier. Do you want to die regretting all the opportunities to be happy that you let pass by? Envy can help you figure out little ways that you can feel happier while you still have the chance. Maybe you want to try driving race cars, or you want to get a foreign language tutor. Maybe there's a way to see and accept the goodness in reality as it currently is. The number 1 regret of the dying is, I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Can you see how envy is a great way to figure out how to live a life true to yourself? Using envy as a tap on the shoulder to signal you that there's a longing in your heart for something, and then doing something about it is a great way to figure out what a life true to yourself even is. In his book, The Road to Character, David Brooks says, "We don't live for happiness, we live for holiness. Day to day we seek out pleasure, but deep down, human beings are endowed with moral imagination. All human beings seek to lead lives not just of pleasure, but of purpose, righteousness, and virtue. As John Stuart Mill put it, people have a responsibility to become more moral over time. The best life is oriented around the increasing excellence of the soul and is nourished by moral joy, the quiet sense of gratitude and tranquility that comes as a byproduct of successful moral struggle." End quote. As I get older, I want to remain strong and not be bogged down by the smorgasbord of chronic diseases we're told are natural parts of aging, but they don't have to be, so that I can be as useful as possible to my family and community and the world. And I also want to feel like my life makes sense and that I'm living true to myself and becoming more moral over time, that my striving for increased excellence of the soul results in a byproduct of a quiet sense of joy. And I think that noticing and using envy to my advantage can help create that. First, knowing that comparison is a natural part of being human, but recognizing the unfairness in most of the comparisons that I naturally make. There's no sense in comparing my boring ingredients to someone else's completed blue ribbon winning pie. Second, honoring and being thankful for the opportunities to travel my own unique path. Using envy as a reminder to beautify and enjoy my own path rather than wishing I were on another path that was never meant for me. Third, by reining in any action that comes from the desire to be envied by others. Noticing my wish to be envied by others can help me actually live my own life and not pretend to live the kind of life I think others might wish to have. Fourth, to use envy as a reminder to practice mudita, to inject more love into my life by soaking my soul in celebratory love for all the wonderful things that happen to and for other people. And fifth, to use envy to discover things I never knew about myself, to uncover longings I didn't know I had that have the potential to make me a better and more engaged human being. It may be one of the deadly sins, but envy can also help you create a life of virtue. Thank you so much for listening today. Next week, we're going to talk about a major piece in preventing the most common cause of premature death and disease, which is cardiovascular disease. You don't have to be a cardiovascular statistic. Until then, feel more envy in order to create a life that you're proud of, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.